collaboration, competition and devolution, or, as we hope it'll be, the Great Northern Debate. We're very fortunate to be joined again by Neil McLean, Chair, Leeds City Region LEP Board, and also by some of his, not rivals, but I think colleagues from across the north. At the end there, we have James Newman, who is Chair of the Sheffield City Region LEP Board. And next to James, we have Paul Woolston, Chair of the North East LEP Board. And next to Paul, we also have and welcome Roger Milburn. He's a director at Ovarup and a board member of the Manchester LEP Board. So welcome. We're also very fortunate to be joined by Ed Twiddy. Ed is from sorry, I've missed that. You've been at the Department of Treasury, am I right, Ed, for 10 years? That's right. Yep. That's right. And you're the man that holds the purse strings?
I guess.
Well, we all hope so today, but thank you very much for joining us. We're going to hear a bit more from you later. What I thought would be the best way of kicking off would be to ask these guys to just give us a very short sort of overview of where they see things, how they see things from their perspective, from where they sit around the regions. And then, hopefully, we can get into a debate about how we can work together. So, James, perhaps you could just kick off with a few thoughts.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for letting me into Leeds. I came through the ceasefire zone of Barnsley, which is in both the Leeds City Region LEP and the Sheffield City Region LEP, and I'm delighted to be here. Sheffield was an early starter in this process. We've been operating now since December as a full board and made some significant progress. We've really started from scratch. There was a political alliance of some of the local authorities, but that was about it. And we went through a fairly detailed process before the LEP board was formed in terms of setting out the key priorities, the key sectors that we were interested in, and also the key projects that we wanted to see developed that were going to affect the region as a whole. We've identified a number of key work streams which have been worked on in collaboration with the local authorities. So the private sector and local authorities have been working together on a number of key work streams. And we also wanted to make sure that we did a few things that people could understand that were practical. So we identified a number of things that we could get done in our first 12 months. And I think that's been a very, very important part of just getting the LEP board up and running, getting the local authority partners and the private sector working together. The local authorities in the region, and we are one of those peculiar LEPs, and you might say Sheffield's peculiar anyway, but we are one of those that we actually cross some of the old administrative boundaries. So 4 of our local authorities are in Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, so they're outside of Yorkshire completely. And of course, they have a completely different agenda that we've had to bring into the mix because they're mainly rural as opposed to urban communities. The priorities now for us are to finalise our enterprise zone, which we're doing at the moment, and Edward's heavily involved in that with us, to create some other areas of collaboration with our local authority partners so that they feel that they're contributing to the whole process, and especially at officer level. I think the leaders are well engaged, the chief executives are well engaged, but at officer level, we've still got to bring Sheffield to work closely with Doncaster or Barnsley. And so we're working hard on that. Working hard on inward investment, and we've actually announced today we're bringing together and creating a single Sheffield City Region inward investment team to actually sell the region rather than it being done piecemeal. So that's a big step forward. All the local authorities are supporting that. And I think now, as we're developing a number of key projects and the government are giving us a few more things to do, then access to finance is actually starting to loom as a big issue. Different types of finance, different structures, different sets of investors, rather than the traditional ones that we've all been used to. Developing that is going to be a big priority for us. So there's a lot to do. We've got sector groups, as you have here in Leeds. Ours are around manufacturing, construction, property, transport, tourism, leisure, and sport, which we've merged into one. So there's a lot to do there. And finally, we're at the moment we're running on a staff of 2 with the odd secondment. So we're hopeful going to get some people in to help us do all of this, because there is a lot to do.
Thanks very much, James. I'd now like to introduce Paul Woolston. He's chair of the North East LEP board, also senior partner of the PwC North East practice and the PwC UK market sector leader for public services assurance. Paul, your thoughts?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you for inviting me to your summit this afternoon. It's really great to see so many of you here. Our North East LEP covers the Tyne and Wear conurbation and the counties of Northumberland and Durham. We've actually only been in existence since the beginning of July. And in the period between then and now, almost all of our energies have been directed at deciding where our enterprise zone should be and agreeing that with government. In fact, I argue that we've never had a board meeting yet, because every meeting we've had has exclusively been talking about the enterprise zone. When we were looking at where that enterprise zone should be and its content, we were very keen to ensure that it was as aligned as much as possible with our strategic intent. And that was to look at how we could build on the existing strengths within the region, but also to have some real sense of ambition. And so the enterprise zone is based around looking to have a global leader position in the low carbon economy, particularly around 2 elements and 2 sites, actually. One around offshore renewables and the other building on the great success of Nissan around electric vehicle manufacture. So we're very pleased that we've got that now. We need to start looking at how we deliver that. Now that we've got the enterprise zone decided, we're keen to push forward on our work streams, some of them about internally getting organised. One work stream, which I think is key for us, is how we look at stakeholder engagement. But also we're looking at skills and employment, access to finance, transport, and innovation. And some of the values that we have that we try to underpin what we're trying to achieve are that we should be strategic, we should work in partnership as much as possible, and we should make linkages so that we can get as much synergy from the region as we can.
Thanks very much, Paul. Now, Roger Milburn, he's been a director of Arup for over 15 years, responsible for the planning, design and implementation of a wide range of projects around the world, and he's a member of the Manchester LEP board. So, Roger, your thoughts?
Thank you, and thanks again for inviting me. This is actually my 3rd visit to Yorkshire this week, so I'm halfway there. Yeah, we're in a different place, I think, in Greater Manchester. We've been fortunate that we've had what's called the AGMA, which is an association of Greater Manchester authorities, which is basically it's been a club where the 10 authorities have come together in cooperation for the last 25 years. Recently, it's been more formalised with something called the Combined Authority, which actually has a number of statutory powers. What is our overarching brief and strategy comes from something called the Greater Manchester Strategy, which has been developed over the last couple of years. This has 2 aspirational goals. First is to the delivery of sustainable economic growth, and the second one is to improve productivity of the labour market. There are 11 strategic priorities, which I won't actually go through. So there is a very neat fit between the geography of the LEP and the geography of what is now the Combined Authority. And that, as I've mentioned, the Combined Authority has a number of statutory functions, including transport, and we've recently created Transport for Manchester. It has some other functions as well. We're also fortunate that we have a number of delivery arms to help the LEP, 2 centres of excellence, one responsible for marketing, communication, tourism, and the other centre of excellence responsible for business growth, trade and investment, as well as a number of commissions which run across Greater Manchester. So together with the Combined Authority and the LEP, we've got a very good governance structure. Clearly there's some very broad and massive policy areas to cope with. We have published about 9 thematic objectives, let's call them, but we're currently reviewing those. and we'll be reissuing a more updated statement shortly. But in outline, it covers what you would imagine: people, so enabling young people, skills and talent, business, helping businesses to expand and to diversify, particularly, again, not surprisingly, against the low carbon agenda. Place, the importance of place, reinforcing the distinctive nature of Manchester and Greater Manchester, and underpinning that with the environment and the infrastructure. And of course, like everywhere else, we're very proud of the universities, so research and innovation is high on our agenda. All of that will be underpinned by a high focus on being international, on getting the right funding, touching on governance, and communicating and engaging with as many people and businesses as we can. So what we see ourselves about is challenging what is already there. We have to be realistic. The LEP can't be there to do everything. There are high expectations on the LEP, so we have to be realistic in what we can do with the resource that we have. So without the support of the various organisations that are within Greater Manchester, we've little chance of achieving what we want to do, which is add something of real value. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Roger. Edward, you lead the team at the Treasury on local government and regional policy. I'm sure these guys are always on the phone asking for the cheques to be written. But how do you see the LEPs, the Northern LEPs, contributing to economic development? How do you see their contribution?
I think LEPs, wherever they are, have got two roles to play. I see them as both agents of guided self-interest, and that self-interest doesn't stop at the boundary of the LEP, as we've heard. There will be areas where definitely adjacent LEPs, and even LEPs who aren't adjacent, but LEPs who have a common sectoral theme or a common resource theme want to cooperate. But that element of guided self-interest has got to combine with a fight for resource. And that fight for resource, I think, is made by winning arguments locally about pooling cash, pooling people, and winning arguments nationally that there is the capacity and the competence and the geography to bring departments, and I put DFT probably at the front of this queue, to you, who want to be operating at the sub-national, and I won't say regional level, for fear of getting my hand slapped back at home. So there are plenty of folk in Whitehall for whom decentralisation, devolution means neighbourhoods and communities, but there are also plenty of folk and their budgets who want to be operating at a scale which is economically relevant and economically coherent, and they are your target audience for a great deal of what's to come. And I really think there is a lot more to come, but it will require that guided self-interest to put down its roots deep into the soil so that people can see that there is structure, governance, that there is going to be an agreement between local political leadership, local business leadership, which they can rely upon.
Great, thank you.